Kyle, I know something's been going on in your life recently to do with the legal situation.
Yeah, finally.
Wait. This isn't important. Can we talk more about Woody's heart attack friend?
Yes, back to that.
He's important too.
Do you know how many people watching this show have been like, how the fuck are they not talking about this yet?
There's timelines in the description. Use them, people.
That is because all the comments pour in about the first hour of the show the most. That is going to be the biggest comment. Steve's right. Where it's like, when the fuck are they going to talk about Kyle's legal
It's
thing?
in the title. You know it's in the title. It's going to be one of the things.
So Kyle, break it down for us, whatever you're comfortable.
Into
the funny parts, the scary parts.
But as a producer, we really should have held this to the last hour.
Kyle, can you do the fast forward version of what they accused you of? Because I still see a lot of people say, hey, wait, Kyle had a legal issue?
Yeah. So there were a bunch of charges at first, and most of them were nonsense. There was a charge that said I had a gun with a destroyed serial number. That was a gun that had been coated, painted with like a pretty design on it, and two of the serial numbers were kind of hard to read. You literally scratch them and you could read them. But like destroying the serial number on a firearm is like a 10-year federal mandatory sentence. So like they lumped stuff like that in.
These were guns you bought brand new from a gun store normally and then had professionally painted.
Yeah.
So this wasn't like a wacky thing.
This isn't one of those deals where I paint a gun like green and red in my backyard. This was a professional job, and they did a bad job at it. And so they lumped stuff like that in with possession of marijuana, and just made it so that I really had to do a plea deal and just plead guilty to possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. And the intent to distribute thing, even the judge today was like, so was he selling marijuana? And they're like, no, absolutely not. This is, the prosecution's like, no, he wasn't. No. Was he shipping it? Nope. Was he trading it for favors or influence? Nope, not at all. Never did that.
Was he going to parades and releasing it over the crowd? Like what?
Nope.
It's the Joker shit.
But
exactly.
But we're quite sure that women would come to his house, his girlfriend even, and smoke a joint with him occasionally. And so that was distribution. So
the judge was like, so he was like a good host?
That is not what the judge said. No.
So you're saying he was a polite person? I would go so far as to say considerate.
We're going to charge you with 3 counts of being considerate.
Yeah,
which is a felony in Georgia.
Yeah, so I was glad that was part of the hearing today, where he was like he made sure that she explained that, and she was like, yeah, no, he didn't sell it. He's not a drug dealer, but he did share it with women from time to time, and just so everyone out there knows, if you're ever in a situation where there's some marijuana, if you share a joint with someone, you just distributed marijuana. So that's
crazy.
What a great excuse for not giving someone your pot.
You said it, not me.
Nah, dude, sorry.
So I don't need extra charges.
Can you explain how sentencing works? Because I was very surprised to learn that your gun collection, they tried to combine it with marijuana and make it a really worse thing.
Before you do that, I like the idea that she's basically saying you tried to ply women with marijuana.
No, that was not what she said. She's literally, it was just that people would come to my house and they would smoke marijuana.
But you would but the idea is that she was trying to get at the fact that you having marijuana is part of why girls came over.
My lawyer essentially said that. He was like, first of all, these friends were ladies. I was just like, I'm looking at her and
the judge just gives you a high five.
Yeah, I really, and just a little sidebar here, a little court humor there for you. If anyone finds himself in a similar situation that I was in, and they're in the Atlanta area, hit me up, and I guess I could refer you to an attorney. I really thought that my guy did a good job for me over the last year and a half that this thing's been going on for.
Seems like so long ago. This stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes up and I'm like, they're still mad about that.
Yeah, they're still mad about it. Yeah, it's
That's part of the legal system. If you wait long enough, they just go, eh.
Yeah, bygones.
In some situations they do with statutes of limitation, but this isn't one of those situations at all. That doesn't apply here in any way.
What's the statute of limitations to fake pot charges?
So Kyle, the guns combining with pot use became a weird thing.
So there's like federal sentencing guidelines. We've all probably heard that terminology before, and it's like this sliding scale of like a point system. And it's like, oh, you did a good thing, 2 points off. Oh, you did a bad thing, 1 point on. And the things that took points off for me were, I have no criminal history whatsoever. What was another one?
So wait, it's like a fucking driver's test?
Kinda. And the more points you get, the more time you can do.
Are there like multipliers?
Yes. Huh. On the left, there are numbers that go from like 1 to, I don't know, 50 or something like that. And just to the right of those are how many months that's recommended that you do in prison. And so I started out at 31,
which is 31 points.
Yeah,
I don't think people recognize how outrageous that is. That is a really, really big legal problem.
It's like 35 years in federal prison.
Jesus Christ!
Well,
that's
also. But did you guys listen to season 3 of Serial?
You're really going to interrupt his story for that? Okay.
No, because they take you through the court system and how pleading, how basically they lump all these false charges on, and not only that, but they charge you twice for the same thing. Like they'll be like possession of a firearm and also possession of a weapon, and it's like that's the same thing.
And possession of a firearm by a drug user. It's like, wait a minute, am I getting charged 3 times for one gun?
And they do, and the reason they do that is so that by the end they're like, you're facing 31 years in prison, and you're like, all right, I guess I'll plead to 2. And really, they just wanted you to have 2 in the first place.
That's absolutely the situation. And what it was in my case is that it didn't make any sense to go to trial and potentially face all that craziness. The level 31 stuff. It made so much more sense to just plead guilty, even though I really disagreed with the distribution charge. That seemed wrong to me. I'm not a legal scholar or anything. And then there were a lot of inconsistencies in the whole case. The way the search warrant was obtained and some stuff like that I won't go into. But it wasn't. I could have won if I taken it to trial, but the risk was absurd.
You could have lost.
And
you
that was
also
the
could have
situation.
lost.
And so you were FPSRussia, which meant that you owned a lot of specialty, interesting guns, silencers, and short barrel, all licensed, all completely above board.
Yeah.
But in this context, they became like extra big problems. Can you explain?
Well, at first, that was adding on like 8 points, which is a lot.
For owning legal guns?
Yeah. And that got brought down to adding on 2 points. So again, like points got deducted for things like I'd never had a criminal history and it's like first time offense, and the possession of marijuana under a kilogram or whatever, I under a pound, one or the other was X amount of points, and it all came down to 6 points. From 31 down to 6 points, and the recommended sentence for that, which is what I've been saying kind of all along for like 2 years, is 0 to 6 months of prison. And the last 6 months of any federal sentence, you don't actually spend in prison. You spend it in a halfway house. So it's kind of like a dormitory that you sleep in at night with some other cool guys, I guess. And you have
with all the people you've been making fun of for years.
I'm sure I'll make good friends there. And you get your days.
Heard what you were saying on the podcast.
But you get your days to yourself, and you're not like locked up. They're just keeping tabs on you for a little while. And there was a maximum of, I think, maybe $9,500 they could have fined me, and it was up to 5 years of probation, which is pretty annoying. That much probation. That's a long ass time.
What does that mean?
Does probation include drug testing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
okay.
I think so. And so we went in today, and I got there at 9 a.m. Athens, which is like
Rack
a
of
2-hour
dawn in
drive.
Kyle's world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got up at 5 a.m. I got
That
up
is
at
early,
5 a.m.
I probably wouldn't have slept at all. I would have been so nervous.
I slept pretty well, honestly. I went to bed at like 9 p.m. So
it was
I
all the
would be-
pot that helped him sleep.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Fuck off.
Not a funny one, Steve. Not a funny one.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Anything of the sort. It was my wholesome nature and
melatonin.
my love of Jesus Christ that helped me sleep well.
Hey, cool kids, gather around. Let me tell you about Jesus Christ right now.
I've been taking random drug tests for 2 years now. I'm clean. and so I got up at 5 a.m., got there at 9 a.m., and my lawyer's not there. And I'm like, and see, there's no way to really coordinate with the lawyer because as a lawyer, he won't answer the phone when he drives. I understand that. You know, he understands it's a crime to do so in this state. And he's got a long drive just like I do. And I'm not going to call him at 6 a.m. And so I can't call him on the phone. I can't take my phone into the courthouse, you know, because I'm a defendant. One of the interesting things
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you can. One of the interesting things throughout my whole legal process is I've got a very nice suit that I had made, and every time I go into any courthouse, lawyers on the left. I'm like, no, I'm not a lawyer. Really? What are you doing here? Wait a minute. Are you that? You look familiar.
Is that your hitman
internet guy? Yeah.
That's literally what happened at the federal courthouse. Both times, the metal detector guy recognized me, and then we ended up watching videos, my videos with the metal detector guy, having a good little chat. So I get there.
Please tell me he was like taking selfies of you, and he's like, "But not with your phone. You're not allowed to have that."
Yeah. I get there and I go up into the courtroom, and I'm there before they even unlock the doors. You know, I'm ready to go here. I don't want to be late. There was an incident a few months back where they didn't notify me that today's my court day. And so I just get a phone call at like 10 a.m. and they're like, "Hey, you're supposed to be in court." And I'm just like, "What? What do you mean? No one told me." And I had to like rush and drive 2 hours, but they were told that I wasn't notified. So it was all good. So the court opens up and I go in there, and I'm going to be the last guy on the docket for the day. So that gives plenty of time for my lawyer to get there. And he does eventually, although I'm very nervous because court has begun by the time he gets there. And today was mostly sentencing. And so there's this big chorus, I'll call them, of people in orange jumpsuits and shackles over there, kind of like a, you know, sitting in like a choir formation.
I want them singing now like it's Sister Act.
Like about how many people are in front of you? Like 10, 20, 30?
I would say eight or 9 people. And so I get to watch each of their cases go. And the thing about it is, like, they go up and the prosecutor is like, they tell you what these people did. You know, they're like, you know, if the person pleads guilty, like the whole spiel is, they go, if we had proceeded to trial, we would have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that so-and-so did this on this day, and then this happened, and then this happened, and they really lay out what these people have done.
So the language they used to lay it out, is it half legalese, like strong arm burglary or this or that, or is it more like she was 78 years old, he tied her to a chair with telephone cord, like descriptive language?
They tell a story. And so
Woody wants to know how hard to get.
You can't get any more.
And so this Mexican guy goes up first, and my lawyer's sitting next to me at this point, and he's pleading guilty. He's pleading guilty today, so he won't be sentenced today, but he's pleading guilty. And she starts explaining what this guy did. He had driven like 150 gallons of liquid methamphetamine from Mexico to Atlanta in exchange for $12,000 in the diesel tanks of his big rig. And then he was having 2 associates separate the diesel from the methamphetamine at a residence. And they go into all this detail about like how the investigation went down. And I'm like, I'm interested now. Like this is some crazy
you're
stuff.
invested in this story.
This is Breaking Bad level.
Yeah,
and
you're like, what happened season 2?
Well, I may have to go back and
Javier doesn't get to appear in season 2.
Season 2 happens in prison.
Javier is going to be seeing season 2, season 3, season 4, season 5, season 6. He's going to be doing 10 seasons at least And that's what she said. She's like, this carries a minimum of 10 years and a maximum of life imprisonment. And the judge is like, you understand that, Javier? And he's like, see, they got the interpreter there. They're going back and forth. And I'm like, fuck, that's rough, man. And he's like, and just so you know, I hope your lawyer has expressed this to you. You will be deported after you serve your prison sentence. Then there was this brief period of time where I think Javier and myself were like, wait, you're saying that maybe you just send me back home?
Yeah.
I was like,
can we just skip the whole prison thing and I'll go home? I'll never
go.
come back.
I'll go. I thought that might happen, and I was like, you feel bad for him, even though he was clearly doing a bad thing. But like when he turned around to leave, his face looked rough. I felt bad for him immediately. And then 2 more illegals go up, and they're just getting like time served, $100 fine. And well, that's not what they say in the federal courtroom. They refer to them as illegals. Okay. And so they deport these 2 guys.
Wait,
then
that seems cool. Like, if I had a choice between 10 years in prison, federal prison, I'm guessing, and deporting, I'd take.
You don't have the choice.
Dude, if I commit a crime in France and I go into court and they're like, get out of here. Like, I want to be like, oh, thank God. I'll never do that again.
The 2 gentlemen who were just deported, their crime was entry.
Oh,
so yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So then there's a black gentleman. He goes up, and he was possession of a firearm by a felon, and
it's probably a serious one.
It was pretty serious because of his criminal history. He had an aggravated assault in his past, and the judge was like, "Ooh, I don't like to see violence. That's no good." And there's like, there's a 6-point multiplier here for this aggravated assault, and I'm just like, ooh. And was there anything you'd like to say for yourself? And I thought he spoke for himself fairly well. He was like, I've been around a lot of guys recently who aren't going to get out again. They're never going home. And this is kind of this federal thing has opened my eyes that if I don't straighten up, one of these days I'm never going home. And the judge was like, oh, okay. Maximum sentence, 5 years. and so it goes on like that for like 40, maybe an hour.
I would also love if the guy who had the possession of firearm, it's like, if there anything you have to say for yourself, and he's like, that FPS Russia right there.
Big fan.
Yeah.
Is that the gun guy?
So another guy goes up, and this guy's like the only one there who wasn't brought in shackles, and I was like, my peer. Well, he gets up there, and he's got like a history of methamphetamine abuse, and he's a drug addict, and he's got they found like weapons and methamphetamine, and he was also a felon. And his lawyer's telling this sob story about how he is the caregiver to 4 children, and the children's mother's getting a hysterectomy, and it's just this real sob story. And the judge is like, oh, okay. 48 months. And I was like, God damn. And they're like, well, Your Honor, we request that he not be taken into custody today. And everybody else in the courtroom, the prosecutor and like whoever the assistant prosecutor, they're just like, nah, we should take him today. And so they fucking take him. They go and they get him and they handcuff him right there and they drag him out of that place. And I'm just like, this isn't going well, man. We got Judge Roy Bean up there. He's laying the hammer down on these people.
What's your thought about your own situation as you're watching that unfold?
I always knew like unless like some sort of like unless something weird happened, 6 months was going to be the worst it was ever going to be, and that was going to be in the halfway house situation. So yeah.
But wait a second. Like the idea of having to go last, like having to, I feel like that's more nerve-wracking than getting it out of the way right away. Because like you have to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's worse. They were icing the kicker all day. Now, you got 2 months. Is that right?
Yeah, I got 2 months.
But we don't know 2 months of what.
It's almost it depends. It's 2 months of the halfway house, and the only thing that would change that is if they don't have enough beds at the halfway house. It's this weird scenario where like my lawyer's like, I mean, we could probably just talk to the parole officer, and maybe we'll just wait until there is a bed. until you have to go and start serving that 2 months. But we don't really know. Like worst case scenario, I have to go to something that they described as summer camp, which that's I don't know.
Sounds fun.
Not really.
But it's Bible summer camp, Taylor.
It sucks.
I was laughing to myself earlier today, thinking about the possibility of you getting house arrest for 2 months or something, and just like them being like, now you can't leave your house. You have this anklet on for 2 months, and then like 3.5 months in, they're calling you like, we do need that bracelet back. Like you can leave now, right? And you're like, yeah, I'll get around to it.
You're just doing Postmates and Rust all day.
There's a whole new season of One Punch Man out. I think maybe next week.
So,
does the halfway house have a sex swing though, or you don't have to?
I don't think so. I think that's in that scenario. So yeah, I got 2 years of probation, which is the minimum amount of probation that I could have gotten. He could have given me 5 years of probation. I was pretty thankful for that. The probation was the part I was most concerned about, honestly, like how many years I would have to continue to do these like drug tests and be under like the, sort of have a babysitter to some extent. My probation officers,
Kyle, you've been under probation. Am I right?
Yeah. It's called pretrial. It's called pretrial probation. I've been on that for.
And what impact does it have on one's life to be under probation? There's drug tests.
Can't leave the state without permission. My parole officer calls me maybe once every 2 months or something like that, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop by, see how you're doing." He stops by and we talk for a little while. He's a big fan of cooking as well, so we usually talk about YouTube.
So he goes to you every time.
Yeah. I've only had to go to them the very, very, very first time, and then I have this like local to me. There's a place that does drug treatment. I had to go through a drug treatment situation.
How many hours is that? Like a 1 day class or
no, that was every week for. What happened was I went and they immediately said you don't need drug treatment, and they said but they did offer me help for PTSD. So I went through this whole like PTSD treatment situation with them, which was very helpful. And then the lady who was doing that treatment with me, I can't remember. There's an acronym for it. It's like EDSMR or something like that. It's a bit like hypnotism, which sounds a little hokey, but it helped. And so she retired. And so I took on a new therapist / counselor, and she was like, "That's a crime." She was like, "You go to jail for pot?" And I'm like, "I don't think you're supposed to be saying this stuff."
The greatest, by the way, the greatest / worst thing about this whole thing is that in 4 years, none of this would have mattered. We are so close to the time where it becomes federally legal, or when enough states legalize it or whatever it is, that like you literally would not have had a problem at all.
Yeah, that's definitely around the corner at some point. I would say definitely in the next 8 or 10 years or something like that. We'll see who wins the next election. That's absolutely pivotal, who wins the next election, about how fast it happens, because I think Sanders would do it rather quickly. But yeah, just to
by the way, Glebe is a total stoner, just so people know.
Okay. So don't throw your vote away, people. Bernie bros, get after it. And so yeah, 2 months of this halfway house situation. Don't know when I'll have to check in. They'll call me in a month, 2 months, maybe more even, and let me know. Some menial fine, wasn't that much. Like back when it was like a level 31 fence, it was like $1 million fine. It was ridiculous.
I didn't know what a halfway house was, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. It seems to involve a big therapy component. Do you know more than I do?
I think if you're there for a long time, then it does. But I think with this federal halfway house situation, it's been described to me as a dormitory that I check into in the evenings. I sleep there, and then I leave the next day. Like I drive my car to this place and like sleep there.
I performed in one once.
Oh, but that was.
What do you know about them?
I performed in a halfway house.
How many people were there?
It was about halfway full. That was horrible. Yeah. It was we're telling jokes, people. Anyway, no, but I really did perform in one, and it was probably about 50, 60 people. In some like function room thing, and the audience was very sweet. They were disciplined, I'll tell you that. Like no one was interrupting shit. It was a very like it was similar to performing at like a recovery show.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of the people in halfway houses are in there for drugs.
Mm-hmm. Everybody in court today was there for drugs.
Wait, what about the firearm guy?
It was possession of a firearm
drugs
by a
and
drug
alcohol
user.
were rolled into this whole
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it was everybody was there for drugs. Every single one of them. It was mostly methamphetamine.
Which is crazy when you think about the fact that like most people who do drugs are doing drugs not out of choice, but out of like they were in a shitty situation and they got addicted. Like it's a medical condition that we treat as a criminal offense.
Yeah, a lot of the times I would agree with that. Yeah, and then there's just some people who are just degenerates and they want to get fucked up. But you know, I don't judge anybody. Clearly don't have much ground to stand.
Yeah, but also if their life is so shitty that if your life sucks so much that meth makes it better, like that's like I'm not angry at those people.
Yeah, I'm not angry at anybody for doing drugs.
Well,
you know, I don't know what, you know, as long as you don't like spray them on me or anything. I have these nightmares.
By the way, Kyle,
where somebody comes and rubs. I had this nightmare where someone came and rubbed a drug on my neck that was like soaks into your skin. And he was like, "Ha ha!" and he ran away. And I was just like, "I'm gonna fail my drug test now." No, and I'm just thinking of like what am I gonna do? They're never gonna believe this. They're never gonna believe a maniac ran up to me and rubbed something on my neck. They're never gonna believe that.
That's a funny like PTSD.
No wonder you needed PTSD stuff.
Yeah. Now that you've been sentenced and like you know the end of this all, I just really want to apologize for mailing you those drugs. I just feel like
I had no idea you'd get in so much trouble. I would have never played a part.
I really just thought it'd be funny to send you drugs. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I don't do drugs, so why would they come from me, right?
Real knee
perfect crime.
Woody and I kept it a secret the whole time.
The long con. The long con.
How your Jewish jokes now, Kyle?